On this episode, we talk about Star Wars, the Lord's Prayer, and Howell uses the word anthropological.
Welcome to TGI Monday. This week we are talking about something which I'm sure you're all very excited about. Probably people in your household have been looking forward to this for months. Coming up in a few weeks' time. I know I'm excited. Howell, tell them what I'm talking about.
Star Wars.
Star Wars. Are we all excited about Star Wars? Zoe, are you excited?
Well, I'm going to have to start with being honest and say, not really.
What?
Because I've never managed one whole film.
Excellent.
I've never DVDs.
I haven't watched it.
Appalling.
Excellent.
No,
I've never seen Star Wars either. Dan, are you excited?
I'm not that excited. I've only seen the trailers about 5 or 6 times. So
Only
I'm
five
not
or
as
six?
mad as some people.
That's a few.
Well, I have to admit that my cats are called Han and Chewie. And we are excited. But my wife won't go because she's still in trauma about episode 1 and 2.
Oh, really?
And the horror that was episode 1 and 2. So we're really hoping that it's not going to be a horrific as those ones.
So
this is
rehabilitative.
Well, they were just dreadful 1 and 2.
Okay, so what are we hoping for? This is episode 3.
Well, I'm hoping.
What are you hoping
I'm
for?
hoping, right, that
Episode 3?
No, it's not. It's episode 7.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Sorry. I told you I've never seen it.
Right, episode 7, right, and we're hoping that the baddie is not Luke Skywalker because we think it might be, and we're hoping it's not going to be that. We're hoping that Han and Chewie are actually in it. Okay, not just in the trailers, and we're hoping.
Your cats?
Yeah, not my cats, but the real Han and Chewie, right?
Okay.
And we're also hoping as well that it will not be a sort of dodgy CGI fest. The first.
I thought they were all dodgy CGI fests.
No, well, the originals aren't. The real Star Warses aren't. They're not.
No.
They're not. Definitely
Okay.
not. It's just the kind of episode 1, 2, and 3, which are anyway. I can't say.
Right. So we're all looking forward to it. It's coming out when?
It's the end of the month, 16th.
Yeah.
16th
Yeah.
of December.
Yeah.
Okay, some of us counting down a bit more enthusiastically than others.
But what are we about?
Well, so I tell you why we're talking about Star Wars. You may well have seen in the news last week, there's a big hoo-ha about one of the adverts that was due to play in the cinemas before Star Wars and has been banned. Dan, tell us about that.
Well, thanks, Smalls. So the Lord's Prayer was banned from the Star Wars movie. The Lord's Prayer advert started with our Archbishop of Canterbury opening the Lord's Prayer with the Our Father, and then it moves through a process of a weightlifter and some people, I think, from abroad, and just various different people saying the Lord's Prayer from different walks of life. And the company behind that mediates the advertising for the cinemas apparently banned it on the premise that it was offensive. So they've maintained all the kind of the more graphic, violent, sexual type adverts in the cinemas before Star Wars, but they've not allowed the Lord's Prayer because it's too offensive.
Yeah,
is that about right?
Yeah, I think that is about right. What do we all think? Have we seen the advert?
Yeah.
It's now on YouTube. You can go and see it. Do we like the advert?
It's kind of all right, wasn't it?
It's kind of all right, wasn't it? What do you think, Zoe?
I have quite mixed
Go on.
feelings because watching it, I enjoyed watching it myself, but it does make me start asking a few questions, just in terms of, is paying such huge amounts for advertising moving in the wrong direction? And that does trouble me. I know that we live in the world that we live in, and if you're not occupying that space, then it's like you don't exist. But as someone who thinks that the Christian faith is more subversive, more countercultural, paying for large screen glossy advertising worries me a bit.
Good point. I hadn't really thought about it like that, but you're right. I mean, huge amounts of money you can imagine to advertise, particularly before that film.
Yeah.
All the companies must be, lining up for that sort of prime advertising estate.
And it makes me wonder, does God need that kind of advertising?
Yeah.
Isn't it our lives that are supposed to do that?
Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting that we'll do that well enough, but that's sort of my hunch on this stuff.
Yeah.
It does make me wonder about whether that's the right way to go.
See, I've got no problem with it because I think it was a very important investment that the church has made, because the amount of people that are going to go to see these Star Wars movies are going to suddenly hear that people from different walks of life, people who are similar to them and different to them, are going to actually, they know that they're praying.
Yeah.
And what we've learned from various statistics and various things that research that's been made is that people do pray. And it doesn't matter whether they're from a religion or what religion. At some point in time, people are going to pray. Yeah. And this meets that it makes people feel okay. Because we live in a society where so often faith is privatised and trivialised, and it's not allowed to have public space because that's a little bit scary, and that's a little bit, pushing your views. But, you can have your own private faith and have your own church the weekend. Just don't let it bother me. This gets it out into the open. Yeah. And it allows people to be honest about what they're actually doing and gives them a focus for that prayer towards the Christian God.
See, I thought it was interesting. I was talking about this with some of my friends who are not Christians, who were saying, actually, it's not that they find the idea of praying offensive, but, you've paid for your cinema ticket to go and see Star Wars, and to then be made to sit through that sort of religious broadcast would make them feel uncomfortable and offensive. And I thought about it, and I just thought, well, actually, if I was going to the cinema, and let's say there was a party political broadcast before a film, I would be taken aback and surprised by that, and actually I could be pretty annoyed by it.
It feels a bit like propaganda.
It feels a bit, because it's
but then
different.
Don't go.
But you don't know what adverts. You don't know normally. I mean, I know we do about this because it's huge publicity, but you don't normally know what adverts you're going to see, and it's not like on the TV where you could just turn over.
No,
you're in the cinema and it's there, and you've sort of got to sit through it.
That's fine. But I don't want to see face cream adverts, and I think in a funny way, is that what you've got here is with consumerism, which to a large extent you could argue anthropologically is actually a religion in itself, where we worship the things that we buy. Yeah. Right? Then really, there's loads and loads of adverts I don't want to watch because I'm not interested. So I just think, doesn't matter. So I think really, why should faith be any different? And I think what we've got, I think, is a kind of almost like a kind of Mary Whitehouse approach, where you end up because faith and I think prayer is an intimate thing, and it's something which is important to people on a kind of visceral level, that people respond to it rather than responding to it rationally. They respond to it a kind of sort of thing. Yeah. And I think it's the same sort of motivation with the kind of Mary Whitehouse things we saw in the past. Yeah. And I think really what we need to do is show that faith is something which is normal, which is natural, which is a human thing, a human response, and we have to be open and accepting and sort of loving to those who are different to us.
And I thought the advert did do that very well by showing people in just so many different normal places. I can't remember, was there even one in a church? They were sort of,
wedding.
In a wedding, that's right, but in a school, in a cafe, in a, and it just, you pray anywhere, anytime.
But that thing about me saying the idol that we make of, we worship what we buy, I think that's a little bit of where my cringe factor's coming with this stuff, because all of a sudden we've moved God into that territory, and they've paid £250,000. They've bought a bit of that space, and it blurs a few of those lines for me, and I'm not certain how I feel, but the worship what we buy, I think, is a space that we need to, such a countercultural narrative to that. Maybe you have to be in it to do that.
But I think as well, though, what you're saying about it being offensive, it is offensive in lots of ways, because it is the opposite of the Lord's Prayer. It is the opposite of what we're constantly told.
Go on.
So, for example, we're told that everything is unforgivable. There's, every time we read the paper, somebody does something which is unforgivable, right? And we can't move on from that because it's unforgivable. And the Lord's Prayer says we need to forgive others as we need to forgive ourselves and be forgiven ourselves, which is the opposite of what we're told. So there's lots of different things in the Lord's Prayer which are particularly the opening. Again, if I go back to that idea of what secularism is, and secularism as being a space where the faith is removed and you just need the kind of the cold, clean air of pure reason, and that everybody kind of comes neutrally and we have to discuss and be well mannered to each other. And that's all fine. But this opening of the Lord's Prayer is, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Mine.
That's not secular space.
No, that's pretty radical.
That's very radical.
Not about me.
Absolutely.
So when the Archbishop says that, and his response is very interesting. His response was that it's about as offensive as carols, Christmas carols at Christmas time. And on one level, He's absolutely right, because
There's something about that.
we still have a very strong Christian focus at Christmas time. I know there's lots of Santa, I know there's lots of presents, I know there's lots of kind of movies, but there is still nativity plays, there's still carols, there's still church. A lot of people still go to midnight mass. Lots of these things still take place. And so in one level, because we have such a strong Christian heritage, it's not offensive. It's ridiculous to call it offensive. But on the other hand, actually, the Lord's Prayer was offensive when Jesus taught it. And it's still offensive today. And St. Paul says that the gospel is offensive. And the Lord's Prayer is the gospel. So it is operating on two levels. The interesting thing for me, though, is that there is a censorship coming from a company that is putting out these adverts to cinemas. And the question is, should they be allowed to censor?
They'd seen what they were doing.
Well,
I can't believe it got to that stage. That's the bit that's confused me as well. And whether this was just really, really smart advertising.
I know. I think there've been all sorts of discussions about how and when that came about, which
just so
probably
bizarre.
This isn't the moment to discuss.
It's like when you ban a book, everyone wants to read it.
It's
exactly.
like Frankie Goes to Hollywood, isn't it?
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Right. On that note, I think that probably is all we've got time for this week. We're really hoping that you will get involved with TGI Monday. We'd love you to send us your questions, ideas of things you'd like to chat about. All the details will be there. You can tweet us, Facebook us, email us. We'd love to hear from you. See you next week.
So thanks for watching our first TGI Mondays. Yes, I did use the word anthropological, and I can't believe that. Thanks for that. Yeah, cheers. So let us know what you thought in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and as well, send us in your own questions. So next time that Dan can use the word hippopotamus, which would be even better. Thank you very much.